Have you ever noticed something strange? The kindest, strongest people in our lives often spend their later years alone. The fathers who never missed a baseball game, the teachers who stayed late to help one more student, the men who spent decades being everyone's rock. Somehow, these pillars of strength end up sitting in quiet houses, their phones silent, their days empty. Meet James. For 40 years, he was that person everyone counted on. As a teacher, he shaped hundreds of lives. As a father, he never said no. As a husband, he was the constant strength until his wife's last day. Now at 75, he sits at his breakfast table alone, wondering how someone who helped so many could feel so invisible. It's one of life's cruel puzzles. How does a lifetime of giving lead to a season of loneliness? Today, we're going to unlock this mystery, not just to understand it, but to change it, for ourselves, for our fathers, for every good man fighting this silent battle. Share your city in the comments below. Let's build a community that understands this struggle. If you know someone who needs to hear this message, hit subscribe. Sometimes, the strongest act is simply sharing the truth. 1. The hidden cost of always being there. There's an unspoken rule in society. Strong people help. They don't need help. We grow up seeing this everywhere, in movies, from our fathers, at work. And men get this message the loudest. Be the rock. Handle it. Keep going. So we do just that. Every emergency, every family problem, every friend in need, we're there. Not because we have to, but because it becomes who we are. Our strength becomes our identity. Our reliability becomes our value. And for a long time, this works. People respect us. They depend on us. They call us their rock. But here's the painful truth nobody talks about. Being everyone's rock slowly turns you into an island. Let me share a story that might hit close to home. James, a retired teacher, was that rock for 40 years. At school, he was the last to leave, always helping one more student. At home, he handled everything, from broken pipes to broken hearts. When his wife got sick, he managed it all. Doctor visits, bills, housework, staying strong for the kids, never showing fear, never asking for help, because rocks don't break, right? Now at 75, 2 years after losing his wife, James faces the real cost. His phone is quiet. His children assume he's fine. He always was, wasn't he? His old colleagues have their own lives, not because they don't care, but because he taught them something dangerous, that he never needs anyone. This is the hidden cost of being the strong one. People stop offering help because you never seem to need it. They stop asking how you're doing because you always said, fine. Your strength becomes the very thing that isolates you. But here's what's important to understand. This isn't just James's story. It's happening to good men everywhere right now. The very qualities that made them valuable, strength, reliability, independence, have built invisible walls around them. 2. Breaking the I'm fine barrier. I'm fine. It's amazing how these two small words can build the biggest walls. Ask any older man how he's doing. That's what you'll hear. Even when he's not fine. Even when he hasn't spoken to anyone in days. Even when he's struggling. Why is this simple phrase so dangerous? Because it's not just a response, it's a shield. Each time we say, I'm fine, we're really saying, don't look too closely. Don't ask more questions. Don't see that I might need help. Think about the last time you asked your father or grandfather how he was doing. Did you believe his I'm fine? Probably not. But did you push further? Most of us don't. We've learned to accept this code word for leave me alone. Let's go back to James. Last Christmas, his daughter noticed he'd lost weight. Everything okay, Dad? She asked. I'm fine, he said, smiling. Just been busy. The truth? He'd been skipping meals because cooking for one felt pointless, but admitting that felt like admitting defeat. This isn't about stubbornness. It's about fear. Fear of appearing weak. Fear of being a burden. Fear of losing the one thing many men build their identity around, being the strong one. It's easier to say, "I'm fine," than to admit you're struggling with loneliness, that you miss having someone to talk to, that sometimes the silence in your house feels too heavy. The real problem? "I'm fine" becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more we say it, the more people believe it, the less they reach out. Until one day we're really not fine, but we've forgotten how to say anything else. Breaking this barrier isn't about dramatic confessions. It starts small. Maybe it's telling a friend, "Actually, I could use some company." Maybe it's admitting to your children, "The house feels pretty quiet these days." Small truths that crack open the door to real connection. Because here's what every strong man needs to understand. Needing others doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. 3. The power of authentic connections. There's a big difference between having people around and having real connections. Many of us learn this the hard way. You can be in a room full of old friends and still feel like nobody really sees you. Think of your typical men's gathering. Golf games, football watching, card nights, lots of jokes and small talk. How's retirement? Kids doing well? Weather's been crazy. But how often do these conversations go deeper? How often do we talk about what keeps us up at night? This surface-level connection is like junk food for the soul. It fills the time, but leaves you hungry for something real. Let me tell you what happened when James joined a veterans coffee group. At first, it was the same old routine: sports talk, weather chat, political debates. Then, one morning, another member, Bob, missed his usual coffee. Someone mentioned Bob's wife was in the hospital. James, remembering his own experience, reached out to Bob that afternoon. "I know what it's like," James told him. "When my Sarah was sick, I could have used someone to talk to." That simple moment of honesty changed everything. Bob opened up. James shared more. Soon their conversations at the coffee group shifted. Other men started joining in, sharing their own stories. This is what real connection looks like. It's not about having the right answers or fixing each other's problems. It's about being brave enough to say, "Yeah, I've been there too," or "This isn't easy for me either." For men, especially older men, these authentic connections are rare. We're taught to compete, not connect, to advise, not listen, to fix, not feel. But at this stage of life, we don't need more advice. We need people who understand. Real friendship at our age isn't built over big events or shared activities. It's built in small moments of truth. When you admit you still set a place at dinner for your wife sometimes. When you confess that retirement isn't what you expected. When you share that your kids' busy lives make you feel forgotten. These moments are scary. They make us feel vulnerable. But here's the thing about vulnerability. It's contagious. When one person gets real, it gives others permission to do the same. One honest conversation can crack open decades of "I'm fine." The beauty of authentic connections is that they don't require grand gestures or dramatic changes. They just need us to be a little braver, a little more honest, and willing to go first sometimes. Because the truth is, most men our age are waiting for someone else to break the ice. Someone to say, "This isn't quite what I expected," or "Sometimes I feel lost." Someone to make it okay to be human instead of just strong. 4. Setting boundaries without guilt. Here's something nobody tells you about being the family rock. You're allowed to say no. Sounds simple, right? But for men who've spent their whole lives saying yes, setting boundaries feels like letting people down. Most of us were taught that good men provide, protect, and solve problems. We jump when the phone rings, drop everything for a family crisis, empty our wallets when kids need help, because that's what strong fathers and grandfathers do, isn't it? But there's a hard truth we need to face. always saying yes doesn't make you a better man. It makes you a tired one. Take James again. His son called last month asking for money to start a business. James's retirement savings were shrinking, but saying no felt impossible. What kind of father refuses to help his child, he thought. But here's what James didn't realize. By always rescuing his son, he was stopping him from learning to solve his own problems. Setting boundaries isn't about becoming cold or uncaring. It's about being honest. Sometimes that means saying, I can't afford to help right now, or I need a day to myself, or even, I love you, but this is your challenge to face. The guilt? It's normal. The first few times you set a boundary, it feels like you're breaking a lifetime contract. Your kids might get upset. Friends might not understand. But here's what's interesting. The people who get angry when you set boundaries are usually the ones who benefited most from you not having any. For older men, setting boundaries is especially tough. We worry about losing connections we already have, fear being seen as selfish, think we'll end up more alone. But the opposite is true. When you set healthy boundaries, something amazing happens. People start respecting your time, your energy, and your needs. Real strength isn't in always being available. It's in being honest about what you can and can't do. It's in taking care of yourself so you can truly be there for others when it really matters. Remember, you don't have to set all boundaries at once. Start small. Maybe it's taking one day a week just for yourself. Maybe it's waiting an hour before responding to non-emergency calls. Maybe it's being honest about your financial limits, because at the end of the day, you can't be there for anyone if you're not there for yourself first. 5. Creating a supportive community. Here's a fact most men don't want to admit. We all need a tribe. Not just people to watch sports with or share a beer. Real connections. People who notice when we're missing. People who check in, not because they need something, but because they care. The problem is, most of us aren't taught how to build this kind of community, especially after retirement, when the built-in connections of work disappear. We sit at home, remembering the days when our phone used to ring, when people used to need us. But building a community isn't about waiting for invitations. It's about taking small steps toward connection, even when it feels uncomfortable. James discovered this by accident. One morning, tired of eating breakfast alone, he started going to his local diner. Same time, same table. After a week, he noticed other regulars, mostly retired men like himself. Small nods became hellos. Hellos became conversations. Now, 6 months later, that breakfast table has become his anchor point. They don't just talk about sports and weather. They share stories about missing their wives, worrying about their health, feeling left behind by a fast-changing world. Here's what makes a real community. It's not about having the biggest network. It's about having people who notice, who show up, who remember your coffee order and know when something's off. Want to build your own community? Start where you are. The gym where other seniors work out. The park where people walk their dogs. The local veterans group. The community center's woodworking class. Pick one place and show up regularly. That's step 1. Step 2 is harder but more important. Be the one who reaches out. See someone sitting alone? Ask if you can join them. Notice someone missed their usual routine? Give them a call. We often wait for others to make the first move, but here's the truth. They're waiting too. Remember, a strong community isn't built in a day. It's built one hello at a time, one shared story at a time, one small act of caring at a time. Because at our age, we don't need a huge social circle. We just need a few good people who get it, who understand that some days are harder than others, who know that strength isn't about handling everything alone. It's about knowing when to lean on each other. Look around your community. Behind many closed doors sit good men, fathers, grandfathers, veterans, retired teachers, who gave their whole lives to others. Men like James, men who were everyone's strength but now face their quietest days alone. But it doesn't have to stay this way. Being strong doesn't mean being isolated. Being independent doesn't mean being alone. And most importantly, changing this pattern doesn't require a complete life overhaul. It starts with small truths. Maybe admitting, actually, I could use some company, instead of, I'm fine. Maybe joining that morning coffee group you've been driving past. Maybe calling a friend just to talk, not to solve a problem. Because here's what we've learned. The very qualities that can isolate us, our strength, our independence, our desire to help others, can also connect us if we use them differently. Not as walls to keep others out, but as bridges to let them in. Remember, you spent a lifetime being strong for others. Now it's time to be brave for yourself. If this message speaks to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe for more insights that could change lives. Let us know in the comments how this story resonated with you. Your experience might help someone else take their first step toward connection.